In a world where social media influencers are constantly promoting products that claim to speed up metabolism and encourage weight loss, it is important to look at the science behind metabolism and what truly might be effective. What choices can we make when it comes to food to alter the rate of our metabolism? So, what is metabolism anyway? Metabolism is the sum of chemical reactions that occur throughout the body within cells that changes what you eat into energy to fuel basic body functions. Once we eat food, digestive enzymes break down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates into smaller units that can then be carried in the blood to cells and used as energy sources. Metabolism is a balancing act between catabolism, which is breaking down and destruction, and anabolism, which is storing and building. Energy is needed for the following basic functions: breathing, circulating blood, digesting food, growing and repairing cells, managing hormone levels, and regulating body temperature. Metabolism is influenced by many factors and is controlled by hormones of the endocrine system and glands, including the thyroid gland and pancreas.
Our total daily energy expenditure is based upon three components: our resting metabolic rate, abbreviated RMR, the thermic effect of food, and the thermic effect of activity. When people generally refer to metabolism, they are referring to an individual's resting metabolic rate, which is the energy required to maintain the biochemical systems of the body at rest. An individual's RMR makes up 50 to 80% of their total daily energy expenditure, accounting for the largest portion of their total energy needs.
You have probably heard people say that they either have a fast or slow metabolism. Someone with a fast metabolism is able to burn calories quicker at rest, has greater energy needs, and can typically eat more without gaining extra weight. Someone with a slow metabolism burns fewer calories at rest, tends to store excess calories as fat, and can have difficulty losing weight just by cutting calories.
RMR, which is responsible for 50 to 80% of our total energy expenditure, is influenced by fat-free mass, fat mass, sex, age, and genetics, with fat-free mass having the greatest effect on RMR.
Metabolic rate can be measured in many ways, and different methods take into account different factors. The most accurate is through a process called calorimetry, but this requires special equipment and conditions. Resting metabolic rate, however, can be calculated by using some equations such as the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation, which takes into account age in years, height in centimeters, and weight in kilograms.
Now, you might be wondering what foods slow down metabolism. To start, I'm going to be explaining to you more about the refined carbohydrate. One major source of refined carbohydrates in the typical diet are refined cereal grain flours. To create a refined grain product, whole grains are milled to grind off the outer bran layers and germ, producing flour with a greater shelf life and finer texture. However, fiber, essential fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals are removed in this process. Refined grains typically include white flour used in pastas, white rice, and white bread. Core fine grain products include breads, breakfast cereals, pasta, and noodles based on white wheat or rice flour. Not only are these foods nutrient deficient, but when compared to whole and processed carbohydrate foods, these refined grains lower the thermic effect of your meals. Diet-induced thermogenesis accounts for around 20% of your daily energy expenditure, and meals that are more complex require greater work by digestive organs, leading to a greater energetic usage. The consumption of a refined carb or processed food leads to a lower thermic effect of foods where increased energy assimilation predominates. Thus, this decreased thermic effect of refined carbs can be a major contributor to weight gain. There are even a couple of studies that reinforce this notion. As seen in this graph, after consuming a more processed meal consisting of refined grains, there's a much lower metabolic rate as opposed to a whole food meal. It can be hypothesized that this slowing of one's metabolism is a result of less dietary fiber, lower nutrient density, and an excess of simple carbohydrates that require less enzyme synthesis and lower secondary metabolism in the liver, which leads to this lower thermic effect of refined carbohydrates.
Between sugar-sweetened beverages, some cereals, and other sugary foods, our metabolism can be at risk. Consumption of excess sugar can lead to dysregulation of lipid and carbohydrate metabolism, leading to weight and fat gain. This can also lead to metabolic diseases like cardiovascular disease or diabetes. This diagram is showing the effects of fructose on lipid metabolism. Dietary fructose is broken down by an enzyme in the liver called fructokinase C. This enzyme, however, is not regulated, so excess consumption of fructose leads to unregulated uptake and metabolism of fructose. This leads to increased lipogenesis, which produces increased liver lipid and decreased fatty acid oxidation. This leads to increased VLDLs, causing dyslipidemia, which increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. Insulin resistance may also occur, as well as inflammation, which further affects metabolism in the liver.
While low-calorie diets may be gaining popularity for weight loss, the effect that they have on one's resting metabolic rate can work against their weight loss goals. Studies have found that periods of fasting and very low-calorie dieting results in a decrease in RMR. This decline in RMR as a result of calorie restriction can make it harder for an individual to achieve and maintain weight loss. In a study viewing the effect of calorie restriction on metabolic adaptation, it was found that there were subsequent reductions in resting energy expenditure, synonymous with RMR, over the course of 3 weeks of calorie restriction, as shown on figure 2 on the left. So why should you be concerned about a slow metabolism? As mentioned before, an individual's RMR is responsible for 50 to 80% of their total energy expenditure. For the general public, RMR has the greatest effect on how much energy one uses each day. A slow metabolism may be a sign of hypothyroidism or Cushing's disease, which can result in excessive weight gain, which has been identified as a precursor to negative health outcomes such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. In a study done examining variations in RMR among adults, it was found that with the lower RMR compared to the normal weight group, it was associated with a higher BMI. And according to the CDC, a BMI greater than 25 is associated with an increased risk for mortality, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, stroke, and many types of cancers.
Although there are some foods that slow down metabolism, there are also some that speed it up. So let's have a look at what foods speed up metabolism. These foods include protein-rich foods, mineral-rich foods, and caffeine, just to list a few examples. Foods high in protein, such as meat, fish, eggs, dairy, legumes, nuts, and seeds, have shown to increase metabolism for a few hours. These foods require the body to utilize more energy to digest them, also known as the thermic effect of food, TEF. Foods high in protein have shown to have the most increase in TEF by increasing the metabolic rate by 15 to 30%, as opposed to 5 to 10% for carbohydrates and 0 to 3% for fats. Diets that are rich in protein also help the body hold on to muscle mass, which reduces a drop in metabolism. Iron and selenium are two minerals that help the body function properly. They are both needed in regulating the thyroid, the gland that is responsible for controlling metabolism. Research has shown that diets that are too low in iron and selenium decrease the thyroid's ability to produce adequate amounts of T3 and T4 hormones, which slows down metabolism. Too much caffeine has shown to have negative effects on the body, but drinking the recommended dietary allowance, RDA, of caffeine from coffee and tea has shown to help boost metabolism. Tea contains another added nutrient called catechins alongside caffeine that helps increase fat oxidation, which in turn increases metabolic rate. So the overall recommendations do increase amount of daily physical activity to promote and increase the thermic effect of activity, the TEA, and fat-free mass. Eat a diet filled with mostly whole and minimally processed foods. Consume protein-rich foods and the recommended daily allowance of iron, selenium, and iodine. Get adequate sleep to help maintain optimal body function and metabolic rate. Don't only eat refined grains. Live a sedentary lifestyle. Consume excess added sugars and excessively restrict calories. Overall, eating healthy, exercising regularly, and getting sufficient sleep is the best way to maintain a good metabolic rate. It is important to note to strive for balance, as restriction can have a detrimental impact on health.